We are continuing with our coverage at PDAC 2017, talking mining with Greg Rickford, former Minister of Natural Resources for Canada under Prime Minister Harper, and Stan Wholley of CSA Global. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So, there's obviously very good buzz here at the PDAC. 2016 was a great year for mining. The question is, are we going to start seeing more money flowing into the space? Greg, let's start with you.
Well, there's really two aspects to this. I mean, certainly we've got a window here. Stan and I were talking just before the interview that, you know, as governments, you look at windows. And when people talk about mines, they forget that in many instances in Canada and Australia, you're talking about vast isolated territories. So governments have to walk lockstep with industry, understand when those windows are, and make the right investments in the infrastructure, corridors for roads, energy supply, and obviously Indigenous engagement.
Yes.
That's a key part of the modern resource development. It's the way it should be moving forward. We ought not to have mining operations or any major resource projects going on proximal to First Nations communities that they can't access for economic opportunity. So the government has to play an important role in those aspects.
Stan, let's talk about mergers and acquisitions, deals being made in the space. Are we seeing more of this happening right now?
In my business, we're a global geological consultancy, and a big chunk of our work is doing corporate-facing work for due diligence on mergers and acquisitions. And I can tell you that part of our business is booming just at the moment because it has been a good year. You mentioned that at the outset in terms of money flowing into the sector. A lot of the gold producers particularly, a lot of the base metal producers who have seen a nice kick up in their profitability, iron ore players, they're now using that money to go and acquire their next asset, because I think most people are seeing we're now at the beginning of an upturn. Most of the indices that are resource facing on all the exchanges globally have been trending up for a year. So I think now is the time that merger and acquisitions really happen, and you're seeing that. I mean, there's been a number of them recently.
And Greg, besides Canada, obviously as a former natural resource minister, you're partial to Canada. But what are some other jurisdictions that you think will emerge as hot mining spots?
Well, I think the Americas are a great place right now. We won't forget about the terrific job they do in Australia. We've obviously had a very close relationship politically in the recent past with Australia. But I think primarily in the Americas, you're seeing a renewed efforts to build on transparency. Canada was a leader in that respect, and as Stan said, these countries are coming on board with new pieces of legislation, less complicated tax policy that will make it easier for companies to do business. And I think if you strike that right balance, you're going to see the Chiles, the Argentinas of the world thrive in this space. And I think you're going to see relationships with Canada, given our corporate footprint, leverage some value in that regard as well.
Now, many analysts I speak to say one of the most pressing issues facing the industry is the issue of replacing reserves.
Yeah, it has been a problem. For 4 years now we've had an exploration drought that has meant pretty much no one below the majors has been doing anything in the way of finding new discoveries, and we've got a number of mine closures, especially in zinc. We've seen problems with Escondida, with certainty of supply. Indonesia, Freeport have uncertainty of supply, and they're the two biggest mines that supply copper, right? So that works to an improving commodity price, okay? And that's one of the things I think that's probably the most attractive about right now, is that we are seeing price movements in base metals and copper, which are reflecting that poor reserve resupply issue. And equally, as funds flow back, I think that's where you'll see some real improvement in that area.
And just to wrap, one change you both would like to see for the industry, what would it be?
Look, for me, I'd like to see better collaboration between companies in the space. I think if you look at the oil and gas industry, they're probably a little bit more advanced than me. I'm mostly in the minerals industry, in use of technology. So collaboration and use of technology, I think, is where we're going to see a great deal of improvement in the industry, and that's really what I want to see. I want to see us embrace technology and really use that to drive the business into a more profitable space and include more people from different sectors.
I think our biggest opportunity rather than issue is integrating Indigenous populations and communities into the mining sector. I think mining does it better probably than anybody, but you can always do better. I represent a company called Mawindoon who does Indigenous community engagement in the oil and gas sector and in the mining sector. The palpable enthusiasm by communities and by companies now that are Aboriginally owned and operated to participate in mining. I was the face of the federal government during the Idle No More, and I can tell you that there were pockets of Canada where blockades to mining sites and other energy projects didn't go on, where Indigenous communities and companies were actively involved in the project. And that's an opportunity, that's not an issue, and that's where the future of this industry.
It's really a matter of conversation, education, right, Greg?
It's about engagement, but you also want to shift the burden a little bit that Indigenous communities understand the opportunity and some of the obligations that go with being a vital partner of an opportunity that's going to create jobs for their community. So moving beyond meetings and the likes and getting heartily involved in the economic and the technical dimensions of major projects in the resource sector.
All right. Well, thank you both for your time. Thank you for your comments, and happy conference.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
And thanks for watching our coverage. We'll have more for you from the PDAC 2017. Thanks for watching.